Hey everybody, it's Glenn, back in this video with a new episode of Action Figure Evolution. You know how it goes, we trace the various action figure incarnations throughout the years of one particular character, and in this episode that character is the Rhino. Debuting in The Amazing Spider-Man number 41 in 1966, Rhino became a perennial opponent of Spider-Man, yet for the first Rhino action figure we travel back to 1994 and Toy Biz's action figure line that accompanied the Spider-Man animated series of the day. So a guy dressed as a Rhino might seem goofy, and we'll see in later figures how efforts have been made to counter the goofiness by modernising the character's appearance, but dressing as a Rhino wasn't just a kinky fetish. The suit is composed of a super strong polymer that's bonded to his skin in an experiment that also made him superhumanly strong and highly durable. As for the figure, it features just 5 points of articulation, not unusual for the day, and Rhino's battle charge from the cartoon is translated into a head-ramming action operated by this big ugly button on the figure's back. Then 2 years later, the same action figure returned to shelves as Toy Biz played Pimp My Rhino with Total Armor Rhino, featuring anti-spider armor. The card back for the figure read, "Now with all new total body armor, the Rhino is back and he's stronger than ever. So Spider-Man had better watch his back because Total Armor Rhino is out to even the score. Alas, poor dumb Rhino, it'll take more than some shoulder pads and chunky jewelry to defeat Spider-Man." And just as Toy Biz eked every last cent out of that figure's mould, the following year in 1997, we got a brand new one with a rampaging Rhino from the Spider-Man Webb Trap series. As the name of that series suggests, each figure came with a trap accessory. Alas, said accessory has now been lost to time, but in the few years since the first Rhino, we can see some evolution, with increased articulation, so whereas the older Rhino just swivels at the shoulder, the newer version moves up and down, plus there's a hinge at the knee, then a more detailed sculpt attempting to capture a Rhino hide texture, plus a higher budgeted paint application too. Still nothing stellar, but baby steps in the right direction. And from baby steps to more of a leap with the turn of the century, as 2001 gave us Rhino from the Spider-Man Classics line. That line was a precursor to Marvel Legends. Looking back, still not the greatest action figure, but for the time the difference was night and day to what had gone before. The increase in articulation and scale laid the groundwork for the superposability of Marvel Legends, and the sculpt is the most realistic of the various versions to date. I mean, as realistic as a man dressed as a Rhino can look, I suppose. The following year, Spider-Man Classics gave us Ultimate Rhino, the Ultimate Marvel imprint, reimagined and updated the origins of Marvel characters, and in the Ultimate Universe, Rhino became Robotism, Heuristic Intelligence, Navigable Operative, a fancy name for a suit of armor stolen from the US military. Of course, Robotism, Heuristic Intelligence, Navigable Operative just happened to have the acronym Rhino, which was just as well as the suit had a ruddy great horn on it. What are the chances? Of course, the guy who stole the suit would use it for criminal purposes and oppose Spider-Man, like you do. Giving the Rhino suit a more technological origin and appearance does distract from the more goofy image of a big guy dressed as a Rhino, and with this kind of modernization, it comes as no surprise that many of the Marvel movies base character designs on the Ultimate Marvel versions, as they represent a more real-world conception. And if you've seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you can see this as the seed of the Michael Bay-esque Rhino we saw there. With Transformers in mind, this is one. Kind of. We're still firmly with Toy Biz, and Transformers resided with Hasbro. Hasbro would later acquire the Marvel license and produce actual Marvel Transformers, but until then we had to settle with Toy Biz's very own version, which they called Shapeshifters. The initial Rhino Shapeshifters was classically coloured. For this second one, they inexplicably painted it black and his face blue. Why? Sorry, I mean, why? Any guesses what he transforms into? Might sound like a stupid question, but then the Hulk Shapeshifters transformed into a T-Rex. But here I guess they got the nonsense out of their system by painting the face blue, as this one logically transformed into a Rhino. And if you've seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you can see this as the seed of the Michael Bay-esque Rhino we saw there. And around the same time, Toy Biz also gave us this Rhino from Spider-Man and Friends, a line targeted of preschool children. For the preschoolers, even the supervillains in the line like Rhino were wide-eyed and smiling, making him the cutest darn Rhino, an accolade that any Russian immigrant turned supercriminal would want. And to increase his playability, is his accessory, which is both a speed sled, and if we pull this handle up here, it's also a scooter. And from the kiddie fun, we move to one that lends itself more to the adult collector with the Marvel Legends Rhino. Released in 2006 and exclusive to the Spider-Man's Fearsome Foes box set. And it's a return to classic comic book appearance, translated with some really solid sculpting, no big ugly button on the back to make his head ram, and with the superposability, you can create a classic charging pose, albeit with the assist of the first Spider-Man Classics Rhino's display base. And if you're ever curious as to the importance of articulation, just try and recreate this pose with one of the earlier Rhino action figures. Or not. In 2007, the Marvel toy license transferred from Toy Biz to Hasbro, and Hasbro's first Rhino might just look a bit familiar, as one of the first things Hasbro did was plunder Toy Biz's molds to create Spider-Man Origins, which were redecoed versions of Toy Biz's Spider-Man Classics action figures. The first proper Hasbro Rhino quickly followed. This was released under the banner of the third Spider-Man movie. Rhino didn't appear in the movie, but did appear in some versions of that movie's video game. Symptomatic of Hasbro, we get a shrink in scale to 5 inches, a scale that hadn't been seen with Marvel figures for 7 years, and again it's a take on Ultimate Rhino, and maybe it's just to my eye, but in making it, Hasbro seem to have had their eye on the Toy Biz Ultimate Rhino, down to the same odd stepping pose and action feature. 2009 saw a new Spider-Man animated series titled The Spectacular Spider-Man, and the accompanying toy line spawned a new Rhino action figure. I've never seen the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series, and while I'm a big fan of the 90s Spider-Man animated series, the style of the animation on that show was quite pedestrian. Meanwhile, the style of the Spectacular Spider-Man always piqued my interest. At least that is from the action figures I've seen from the show. I enjoy the dramatic proportions of the characters, certainly more cartoony, but if you're not going down a tech suit road with it, then when you're dealing with a guy dressed as a rhino, cartoony is perhaps the best route to go. Speaking of proportion, in 2010, Hasbro would shrink them even further to 3 3/4 inch scale with Power Charge Rhino, part of a Toy Biz style Spider-Man Classics or Hasbro's earlier Spider-Man Origins line. Same price tag as those, only for a figure half the size. And Power Charge Rhino would soon have company in this scale with the addition of the Marvel Universe Rhino. I guess given the Marvel Universe line's very humble beginnings, this is quite a decent action figure. I just can't get into the scale though. I was okay with it when I was 5 with my itty bitty little hands playing with Return of the Jedi toys, but as an adult collector I just can't find any satisfaction in them. Now 2012's Marvel Select Rhino is more to my liking, a bumper offering for that line, heavy enough to break a window with, and the large scale represents a canvas onto what a really incredible surface texture is sculpted. And while a number of times in this video I've drawn attention to the goofiness of a guy in a rhino suit, but of all the action figures I've featured, this is the one that takes that classic rhino design and renders it with an air of realism, creating a menacing dynamic. As much as I love this select, I took a stab at pimping him total armor rhino style. For a closer look at that custom, click this video. Alternatively, for the previous action figure evolution featuring Hulk Foe Abomination, click this video. As ever, please help me out by giving this video a big thumbs up, comment, rate, share and subscribe. Check out the description beneath this video for links to my Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Click those links and connect with me there too. Hope to see you in my next video. Bye.